My name is Nghi and this is my colleague Stephen. We're both early childhood intervention professionals working with Noah's Ark Early Intervention Services in Melbourne's Western region. Our presentation today is titled From Palliation to Participation. We will be exploring a transdisciplinary key worker family partnership model using a case study of Iran, whose name has been changed for confidentiality. Iran is a young child with complex medical needs, including cerebral palsy and feeding difficulties. And just a quick disclaimer, we presented this in Perth in August, so this is a case study from August 2011 to August 2012 this year. There's definitely lots of changes since, but we're going to just keep it as the original presentation. Okay, during this presentation we will introduce Iran and his family. We will explore the transdisciplinary key worker model and how we have been able to apply it to the case study and the interventions involved. We will consider outcomes of using this model within the first year of involvement with this family, and finally reflect on this model when working with a child with complex medical needs and his family. This eco-map represents Iran and his family's connections, resources and support prior to receiving early intervention. Here we have Iran, the first child of parents who are married but living in different countries, his father in Australia and his mother in Bangladesh. Iran was born at full term in Bangladesh. At birth, he had a severe hypoxic brain injury and seizures. The doctor in Bangladesh recommended that he and his mother move to Australia to access better medical care. At age 4 months of age, Iran and his mother moved to Melbourne's Western region and lived with his father. Iran and his father are Australian citizen, yet his mum remains on a temporary visa. Mother is a stay-at-home mum and dad works as a courier. The only family network is dad's sister, but they're not very close, hence the broken line. Iran's family lives within the third fastest growing local government area in Australia with 60 babies born each week. 32% of children are from culturally diverse backgrounds and speak a language other than English. So despite coming to Australia to be linked in with medical services, parents did not initiate this. At 6 months of age, Iran was admitted as an inpatient with viral upper respiratory tract infection. So upon medical admission, professionals assessed that he required more specialist care as he presented with abnormal tone, feeding difficulties and neurological concerns. A multidisciplinary team then became involved, including a paediatrician, a dietitian, a speech pathologist, an occupational therapist and a physiotherapist. This medical intervention aimed to treat Iran's hypertonia and his feeding. Yet the medical team reported that they found it difficult to make significant changes in Iran's presentation. Therefore, they felt that they were unable to adequately support this family and a referral was made to early childhood intervention services. The medical referral highlighted the following areas of need for early intervention, so we've just summarised them in these boxes. The referral also revealed that due to Iran's complex need, he was at increased risk of a reduced lifespan. So Iran required a nasogastric tube and was assessed to be unsafe for oral feeding, was one of the biggest referral reasons for ECIS. Yet mum interpreted his crying as an indicator that he was hungry, which resulted in her in overfeeding him via the tube, causing significant weight gain. Another huge referral reason was that he was unable to be held or settled by anyone other than his mother. So in attempts to actually calm him, she would shake him furiously. And any attempt to kind of engage her to modify this shaking behaviour would result in her literally walking away with him in her arms. A big referral reason to ECIS was also that he was reported to be sleeping in her arms each night, as he could not be settled to sleep independently in his own cot or be correctly positioned on his own. So the paediatrician and the medical team felt that his presentation during clinic appointments were the worst they had ever seen, and positive outcomes for his development was quite minimal in that kind of medical clinic setting. Hence, really, an underlying referral message from their referral to ECIS was that he required a service with a social worker who could support his family in preparation for his death.
So Noah's Ark provides a transdisciplinary key worker early intervention service. This means that one staff member, the key worker, integrates information and advice from their team and works with the family to support the child's learning opportunities. A key worker can be from a professional background, such as teaching, social work, or a therapeutic discipline, such as physiotherapy, speech pathology, psychology, or occupational therapy, who has skills and knowledge that develops the abilities of children with disabilities. The transdisciplinary key worker role can be divided into 5 distinct elements: family liaison, discipline-specific skills, transdisciplinary skills, secondary consultation, and consultation to children's services. Here I'll provide an example of a transdisciplinary key worker with a background in speech pathology before we go on to discuss Aran's case in further detail. The key worker provides family liaison, emotional support, information and advice, identifies and addresses needs, advocacy and service coordination. As a speech pathologist, I would be utilising my discipline-specific skills, assessing and supporting communication and/or feeding development. However, I have knowledge and skills beyond the traditional boundaries of my professional background. Using transdisciplinary skills, I integrate knowledge and skills from the other developmental domains, such as motor development, behaviour, or self-care, into my intervention with families. I acknowledge that there are aspects of service delivery that are beyond my knowledge and skills, and I need to facilitate professionals from other disciplines to provide secondary consultations, to identify specific needs with the family and support me to implement strategies such as assessment of tone and movement or prescription of seating equipment. In recognition that children have learning experiences beyond the family home, the key worker provides consultation with children's services in order to support the child's participation and inclusion in programs such as childcare or kindergarten. The evenly spaced nature of the pie does not indicate that equal priority and time is given to each element. Some families require more support and advocacy, and therefore the family liaison key worker aspect will be larger. For others, the child does not yet attend an early childhood program, so consultation is not required at that time. The transdisciplinary key worker model promotes the development of a partnership between the family and the EI service. It's a bloody thing. It reduces professional involvement, reinforces the evidence that parents are the agents of change, and it's maximal intervention the child needs, not maximal services. The child is seen as a member of a family and a community who participates in a variety of learning environments.
So at 12 months of age, Aran was allocated to our Noah's Ark early intervention team. Our team aimed to match the primary needs of the family with the skills and knowledge of the most appropriate key worker. Therefore, the intake visit for Aran was conducted by a social worker and an occupational therapist, as the referral specifically identified the family's social emotional needs and motor physical needs. So in conjunction with Aran's parents, it was decided that given the complexity of his physical needs, it would be most appropriate for myself, an occupational therapist, to be allocated as the key worker to this family. So in order to engage and support this family, it was essential for me to understand that parents are their own experts with strengths and capacities. Previously, parents initially gave all of their decision making to medical professionals. This meant they had actually a very small voice in the intervention process for Aran. This can be highlighted in the fact that parents were unaware of the underlying referral reason to early intervention, as palliative care was never discussed with them during clinic appointments. A family service and support plan was used to identify what the families wanted to achieve. Initially, it was quite difficult to come up with goals to support Aran's development, as parents and I had quite different concepts of his abilities. As I gained a greater sense of what the family's daily routine involved, it clarified some of the difficulties that parents were experiencing. One of their first goals was for him to walk. Professionally, I felt that this may never be achieved. However, I needed to acknowledge parents' hopes and expectations for their child. It was important for us to develop a shared understanding of the problem in order to identify realistic goals in relation to his mobility. By supporting parents to understand that in order to walk, he would need to develop sequential movement patterns, such as sitting independently and weight bearing through his feet, we were able to come up with the first goal, which is quite general, but I guess parents needed it to be. More importantly, the family were finally vocalising their needs and engaging actively in decision making. Using the family support service plan as a contract for for goals, interventions and outcome, the family and I came to an agreement that the initial goal for Aran would be related to his postural needs, sleeping, accessing community to support, feeding and sensory play.
So Nghi developed a partnership with the family, considered the family's supports and routines, and identified what they wanted to achieve. The next step was to work towards achieving the goals in the Family Service Support Plan. McWilliam suggests a system that allows the key worker to support the family to use naturally occurring learning opportunities to teach specific skills in order to achieve functional outcomes for the child and the family. McWilliam outlines these 5 key principles of the model. He goes on to list promises to the family that form the basis of the key worker service. These promises reflect the need for intervention to see the child as part of a family and a community. It highlights the importance of providing accurate and relevant information in order for parents to be able to make informed decisions about their child's care and be able to access resources that enable them to participate to the best of their abilities. McWilliam recommends a positive, respectful, responsive, sensitive and supportive partnership between the key worker and the whole family. There is a strong focus on coaching the primary caregiver to teach and do other things with his or her child. Bernheimer and Wisner add to this by saying that no intervention will have an impact if it cannot find a slot within the daily routine of the family.
Okay. So goals for intervention will prioritise across a 12-month period with initial focus on supports and resources that will decrease the family stress and isolation. For example, for them to access home respite care, which then would lead to parents having the opportunity to complete daily self-care tasks. While all the actions and the recommendations look quite clear under each element of the pie, as seen in the table, in reality they intertwined and influenced each other greatly. I've had to juggle the 5 elements of the transdisciplinary key worker model. This has required me to balance my responsibility as an occupational therapist with the demands of emotional support and advocacy. I've also had to combine my transdisciplinary skill, including implementing feeding and positioning recommendations and accessing professionals from other disciplines for secondary consults to support this family achieve functional outcomes. Nonetheless, implementing intervention with the home has been a journey similar to a roller coaster ride and has been the most challenging process for both parents and myself. At times, Mum would not let me into the home, stating that Aran was too sick to see anybody today, or Aran is still sleeping, despite it being 2 p.m. In reality, Mum was trying to tell me to back off, hence, it was essential that I work towards establishing a partnership that was trusting, respectful and sensitive. So I'm going to use the first goal of that posture from the Family Support and Service Plan to now discuss in further details the complexity of providing intervention using the key worker transdisciplinary model. In order to achieve this movement goal, it was essential for Aran to separate from his mother and to settle himself. One means of achieving this was to identify opportunities within the family's daily routine for Aran to sit independently in a tumble form chair. Yet parents' expectation of his abilities impacted on the acceptance of equipment, as they felt the tumble form and other seats, including the Mulholland, made him look more disabled. In their eyes, if he needed equipment to help him sit, then he's not a normal child. The family showed significant resistance to a range of different seating equipment by refusing to use all of the child seats. So this required me to take a step back and reflect on the family's perception of the equipment and how using equipment would conflict with their views of his abilities. All parents actually wanted was a seat that looked like the ones other children would use. So once I was able to acknowledge this and explore this issue in depth with parents, we came to an understanding that there was a place for equipment that was functional, therapeutic and aesthetically pleasing. After assessing and trialling 5 different seats for Aran, we agreed that the Cuddlebug stroller met all of these needs, which is the last one out there. It looks like quite a normal stroller with postural support. Therefore, every time that Aran's parents are positioning him in this Cuddlebug stroller, they are providing him with appropriate intervention. As Mum became more confident with separating from him, I was able to facilitate having respite care carry out specific strategies to support his motor and play development. Sitting independently also provided the opportunity to conduct a video philoscopy to further understand the safety of his swallow. We're now going to reflect on the first eco-map prior to early intervention to see the outcomes for Iran's family using a transdisciplinary key worker model. The bold lines represent a stronger relationship between services and social networks for the family. The family network have widened to include a new baby and maternal grandparents visiting from Bangladesh for 6 months. Further, at 20 months of age, Aaron received a diagnosis of cerebral palsy and is now linked into a specialised CP clinic for medical reviews. This diagnosis will also enable him to access some Better Start funding. So some outcomes and strengths for the family have included parents' increased understanding of the healthcare system and supports available. For example, they initiated and requested discounts for parking during all of their medical appointments at hospital. Parents' increased level of decision-making and empowerment and advocacy for their child. Increased carer support through respite and grandparent involvement. Parents' increased understanding and acceptance of a developmental approach to intervention. Aran is now able to calm himself, smile and turn to voices and sounds. He's able to sit in a flex position in different seats and tolerate different people handling him. He's bringing his hands to midline and he's maintaining physical health. And another outcome has been the increased opportunities for parents and myself to reflect on previous, current and future goals for intervention. But I guess really the family strengths have been their hope for the future and their bravery to voice their opinions. Mum once told me, and we really like this quote, which kind of concludes, what we're trying to say. I've been told that he will never smile, hear me, look at me, or walk, but here he is, he's smiling, he's turning to my voice, and he's looking at me. So I pray that he will walk. The biggest outcome has been the shift in perception of Aran's abilities and achievement, and he's no longer at imminent risk of death.
This case study demonstrates that the transdisciplinary key worker model is able to provide support and intervention for a family with a child with complex medical and physical needs. Aran and his family needed more than an expert identifying and treating a problem. The key worker's ability to understand Aran within the context of his family and his home meant that Nghi was able to support the family to identify the most effective interventions for him and to identify opportunities throughout his daily routine to implement these. Aran's parents were crucial in this process. They were able to shift from having the experts treat a deficit to influencing and providing their own interventions for their child. The partnership between the key worker and the family was essential to achieving this, and like any relationship, took a while to figure out how to work together. At times, Aran's parents had different perceptions of his individual needs and what is a disability. When Aran was 18 months old, we were discussing his feeding difficulties. Aran's mother said that he shouldn't be fed in an upright position as he was still a baby, and it became clearer to us that in her mind, Aran was still a baby. Aran's mother had been through an extremely stressful period that involved moving to a new country where she had no social networks and having to look after a child with significant care needs. The family were frequently shifting their goalposts, and at times it seemed that each home visit led to new challenges. Openly acknowledging these challenges may have assisted in developing a shared understanding of Aran. This will be an ongoing process for the family, particularly in the context of what they want to achieve next. Aran and his family have made significant achievements over the last 12 months, and rather than preparing for his death, services are planning on further participation in family life and community. Ongoing recommendations for Aran and his family involve building on his tolerance to handling, motor development and early interaction skills. Aran's parents are now beginning to investigate childcare options for him and are wanting to discuss long-term options for Aran, such as appropriate schools. Our team has been using the transdisciplinary key worker model for many years now, and we have been able to see positive and functional outcomes for the families that we work with. The model will require ongoing research and evaluation in order to show its efficacy. The introduction of the Canadian Occupational Performance Measure into our practice will provide further data to validate the transdisciplinary key worker model. Nonetheless, this framework has provided a structure, enabling us to enabling us the opportunity to develop a partnership with the family, to understand what it is they want to achieve and develop interventions that draw from the family's strengths. This partnership is instrumental in developing families' ability to create environments for children with complex needs that are nurturing, stimulating and promote learning opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you.